Our last two objectives are section 1.7, using the anatomical terms to describe body sections, body regions, and relative positions, and section 1.8 to identify the major body cavities and their subdivisions. Anatomical terminology is called medical terminology. It describes the body regions, anatomical positions, and directions, and body sections. There's two types that we're going to talk about: surface anatomy and sectional anatomy. Anatomical position is when hands are at the sides with the palms facing forward and feet together. This is called anatomical position. When we are face up, it's called supine. When we're face down, it's called prone. This is an illustration or picture of anatomical position, and it's the anterior or frontal view. This is anatomical position, and it's the posterior or dorsal view. There are major regions of the body, and there are two methods to map the surface of the abdomen and pelvis. Number one is the abdominal pelvic quadrants. Quad means four, and the abdominal pelvic regions, and that is in 6 sections. Here you could see the 4 abdominal pelvic quadrants: the right upper quadrant, the left upper quadrant, the right lower quadrant, the left lower quadrant. Here you could see the regions: the right hypochondriac region, the epigastric region, the left hypochondriac region, the middle section, the right lumbar region, the umbilical region, and the left lumbar region, and the lower part, the right inguinal region, the hypogastric region, and the left inguinal region. This shows you the anatomical relationships of the organs to the quadrants and the regions. Now, there's something called anatomical directions, and what they do is they provide an orientation of structures relative to anatomical position. Left and right always refer to the left and right sides of the subject, not the observer. Here are 2 images, and you're able to see. We start with the blue at the top, cranial, and then the caudal, and then across we have the anterior ventral side, and then we have the back or posterior dorsal side. And we also see proximal is closer to the point of attachment and distal is further away. Medial is closest to the midline and lateral is furthest away from the midline. That leads us to some general definitions. The first definition is anterior. Anterior means front or before. Ventral is the second, and it means the belly side. It can be equivalent to the anterior, referring to the human body or the front. Posterior means back. Dorsal also means back. Cranial or cephalic means head. Superior means above or at a higher level. Inferior means below or at a lower level. Caudal means tail. Medial means towards the body's longitudinal axis or midline. Lateral means away from the body's longitudinal axis or midline. Proximal means towards the attached base, and distal means away from the attached base. Superficial means near or relatively close to the body's surface, and deep means further from the body's surface. Now, the general anatomy of the body can be divided into 3 planes, or we can divide the body into 3 primary sectional planes. The first is the transverse plane. That divides the body into superior and inferior, or top half and bottom half. The frontal plane, which divides the body into anterior and posterior, and the sagittal plane divides the body into right and left portions. These are the images showing you the frontal, transverse, and sagittal plane. Go over the checkpoint and look at them and see if you can answer these questions. Now, there are some body cavities. Body cavities protect internal organs, and they allow the organs to change shape. There are many body cavities. The two major divisions are the thoracic cavity and the abdominal pelvic cavity. In the thoracic cavity, there are three internal chambers. There's a pericardial cavity that holds the heart, and there are two pleural cavities that holds the lungs. The pericardial cavity is called the pericardium, and this is where the heart is. There's a fluid between it called serous fluid, and that's to reduce the friction. The pleural cavity holds the lungs. Look over the checkpoint questions and see if you can answer them.